guys, just doing a quick little video here. It's probably not going to be quick, it's probably going to be long as balls because I have a lot to say. We're going to make sure this one's actually edited down because there's a lot to go over. So I decided this year I'm going to do something a little bit new. First off, I have had a hell of a day.
We both have.
Yeah. I came home to finding one of my speakers knocked down by my cat Miracle, and along with that, one of the RCA cables to my turntable, which is the cord that you use to plug into the speaker, the jack at the very end of it snapped off. So that cord is built into the turntable, so I actually had to bring that turntable in for repairs on Record Store Day.
Yep.
And it's going to put off my Adventures in Vinyl, which was this close to being done, this close to being relevant, because there's a little bit I go over at the ends, because there's a personal story between that and some recent happenings in some internet news. But unfortunately now that gets to be postponed because I still have to film my record footage for that. Go figure, my luck. This is Trey, by the way, for those of you, I'm pretty sure more people recognize him than recognize me. So for those of you that didn't know, today is Record Store Day.
And my Record Store Day.
Yes.
Hope y'all got some good bargains and stuff.
For those of the people on my channel that know what the hell Record Store Day is.
And what records are.
See, these are LPs. Actually, I'm pretty sure there's more, youngster millennials that don't know what the hell a CD is. But anyways, that's making a hell of a lot of assumptions. Okay. Anyways, so basically, Record Store Day is a day where a bunch of independent record stores, they get a bunch of exclusive releases, and this year was insane. There was actually one in particular I was after, and I could not find it anywhere. It's to promote independent music, basically. It's to help these struggling independent record stores grow, help raise awareness. Now, this is a great thing because in this day and age where most people consume their music through YouTube, through Spotify, record stores are actually now on a growth, but when this was founded back in 2007, it was because record stores were struggling really badly. A lot of the ones that just sold new merchandise had to resort to selling new and used. A lot of them just don't even bother selling new merchandise anymore. So what I was originally going to do for this video is I was going to film my findings in each store I went to. But there was a bit of an issue with that. There was just so many goddamn people. So, Trey, you remember when we got to Zia,
yeah,
right?
So we got to Zia, what was it, about 45 or 30 minutes early?
Yeah.
Like that, before they opened. You should have seen this line. Oh my god.
By the way, I apologize about the noises in the background. I'm trying to do this on a bit of a tight schedule. I've been really busy lately, and my girlfriend's taking a shower, so it is what it is. I don't have time any other part of this week to deal with it. Anyways, but yeah, this was a long...
At least it stretched like 2 or 3 stores.
Yeah, it was going all the way down to Whole Foods and past that.
Yeah,
and
so those of you who are in Tucson know exactly what we're talking about. You've seen the map, you know.
Yeah, what I was looking for in particular was this this Jeff Buckley release. By the way, the squeaking noise is my parrot.
You know, Fred.
This particular release that from Jeff Buckley, Live at Chennai Legacy Edition, which was available on CD for many, many years, and I owned that on CD as a teenager. I took terrible care of it. It's long destroyed now. If not sold, when I was going through a bit of a financial crisis. And they announced that it was getting a Record Store Day exclusive release for about $82. Now, that sounds freaking outrageous, and it kind of is for the price, But I don't care. I'm a huge Jeff Buckley fan. I'm trying, like, so the line slowly starts going in, and I go in there. I'm starting to look all around for this goddamn record. The employees have no idea where the hell it is.
And like he even like asked the guy while we were waiting in the line, "Hey, do you know if you happen to get any of these?"
Yeah, and the thing is that
yeah, he knew what he was talking about, but he wasn't sure.
Yeah. The thing is that they can't make any false promises.
Yeah,
I understand
exactly.
that we can't.
Yeah.
So we make our way in there, and I can't fucking find this thing. So I just start making do for what I can find. I did find one thing in particular I was looking for. I'm going to start going over my findings right now, but first off, a lot of stores that participate in Record Store Day are giving out these little freebies, these little samplers. There's two that I kind of lost somewhere. I'm sure I'll find them. That they look like little bumper stickers that you put on your car or a decal, but they're actually records.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, like it's not actually like thick enough to be a record, but it played back just fine on my turntable, at least from what I could get out of it, because I was using that to test it out to see if I could get the darn thing to work again.
And that was when we realized it wasn't gonna.
So of course we get our little record store day buttons here, and a couple of samplers. And then this, the new whole Burbank Catalog, just a bunch of independent artists that are just trying to get their names out. I'm sure I'll get these a few spins and sample those. I'm going to pass everything that I've already talked about your way. So we weren't able to film in 2 of the 3 stores that we went in just because of the sheer number of people that were in them.
They were.
It didn't feel right filming so many people. Like catching the one person in your peripheral in a not very busy store is one thing.
Right.
But when there's just so many people all over the place, I just did not feel comfortable filming that many people without their knowledge, without their consent.
Exactly.
So I had to kind of opt out of that one, and also I needed to focus on finding the stuff that I wanted. So let's go over the neat stuff first, so that way you guys that don't care about all the other cool stuff that I found, you'll get your kicks. So I only got 2 Record Store Day exclusives. There weren't that much. There wasn't that much that I was looking for. 1, 2, my budget was a little tight this year because it kind of snuck up on me. I forgot about Record Store Day. But I was amazed to actually bump into this because this was limited, I think it was like 3,000, 3,500, somewhere around that ballpark.
Yeah, see.
So this is the original Arcade Fire EP from 2003. Hi, Fred. From 2003, and it's Arcade Fire is one of my favorite bands. This particular release isn't great, but I'm a collector for Arcade Fire. I just don't have Reflector and I don't have everything now because I'm not in a hurry to get those. They're albums that are probably going to be frequently available. Now this thing, the record itself is green, which is really cool. Yeah. And it has like a bit of a fold out. Like you get your money's worth. This thing's I hope they do a repressing, but I was lucky enough to bump into this. I say I hope they do a repressing because I do want other people to get the opportunity to get these records. I don't like the whole elitist snobbishness. I have this and it's never going to be re-released anytime soon. No, dog. Like, if music is great, you should want to share that music. You should want that opportunity to share that experience.
Absolutely.
And then there was this, which is the Twin Peaks soundtrack on picture disc. And I just thought this was so cool because Twin Peaks is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, getting that little piece of hair off of it. And I was just blown away to actually see it. It's like, this is something I've been like considering buying on vinyl for a while, but seeing that it was in picture disc form, I was just all like, yeah, I gotta get this. So now I have Twin Peaks on vinyl, and this is fucking awesome. So
that is really cool looking.
yeah, like that's probably another one that's gonna go up in price. These are what I was talking about. They were just sandwiched in between records. Like, they're very flimsy, but they each have a song on it. One is by Acid Dad, and another one is by a band called Los Roses. I mean, I haven't given those a spin yet. I was meaning to. So now we're getting into used record territory. Now, I did find a lot of neat, cool stuff that I wanted, but I knew it was like records I either frequently ran into in the wild or records I know I can easily get again. But what a lot of used record stores will do is they will basically save all their really cool stock for record store day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was bumping into lots of Led Zeppelin, lots of Jimi Hendrix. And I really wanted to get a lot of those albums because I've been trying to build up my collection in those, but unfortunately I had to make a lot of compromises. Like I said, my budget was thin this year. So, first off, Grimes, which is a independent, not independent, she's signed to a mainstream label, but indie, if you will. Indie pop artist. This is the album Art Angels. It was one of my favorite albums of 2015. It's catchy as all hell, it's intense, and it's definitely worth checking out. Next one we went to was Wooden Tooth Records. This place wasn't nearly as crowded. I could tell it probably was when it first opened.
Mm-hmm. And once again, we walked up, he asked the guy about
the Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
Didn't have it. Well, the good news about that is I'm probably going to be able to get that one on Discogs or eBay. The price is either going to work its way down or it's going to stabilize at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And they said originally it was limited to 2,500, but now it's looking like it's looking closer to about 7,500 copies that it was limited to. So I'm definitely going to be trying my best to get a hold of that because that is one of my all-time favorite like live albums.
Right,
it's
and you
so
can't
perfect.
you can't put a price on that as a record collector.
No, as a Jeff Buckley fan.
Yeah, and even as that, yes.
So I usually don't get these because I don't really like 7 inches too much. It's just a song, maybe 2 if you're lucky. But I might actually start collecting them after this because once I open the goddamn Pandora's box door.
Yeah. I thought this was so cool. Yeah, show them this.
So this is the Cheers theme song. And Cheers is my all-time favorite TV show.
And it's one of mine too. That's great.
I had to jump at the opportunity to get this. I'm like, it's only $1.
And it had to have been like one of the very first theme songs I learned to play on the piano myself too. So there's that.
So that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
This I was amazed to run into. This is not a reissue. This is from 1988. I checked the barcode.
Wow, okay.
In order to make sure, because I'm really picky when it comes to certain eras, unless the record is like extremely rare or unless it wasn't available on vinyl to begin with, I prefer to get the original pressing of the record, and that is Starfish by The Church. This thing is great. The Church is a very underrated band from Australia. They get so little credit for what they did because everyone's all like, R.E.M., The Smiths, and it's like The Church was around for just as long and had just as much of an impact. And then I got Sonic Youth, one of the SYR recordings. These are really hard to come by on vinyl sometimes. I think this is number 3. Sonic Youth basically occasionally does these like really experimental recordings. Their official albums are usually much more accessible, whereas these can sometimes be pure walls of noise. Other times they'll just be other like little interesting experimentations. So I've been collecting for Sonic Youth, and I'm like, I'm probably not going to run into this again anytime soon, so I went ahead and got that. Another along the lines of favorite soundtracks, favorite movies, Metropolis. Now this is to the Giorgio Moroder version of Metropolis. To the best of my knowledge, the original score is not available on vinyl. It probably won't be for a long ass time, but once it is, I'm pouncing on that shit because I want it. But this is to the 1980s version of this silent classic where they like overlaid a lot of 1980s music and 1980s instrumentation. There was lots and lots of Led Zeppelin. They had Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, and Led Zeppelin 3, all for the price of this one Led Zeppelin record, but this is the one I wanted more. I'm pretty sure I'll run into it again. They had so many copies of each, but only one copy of this. I was amazed. So this is Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin, and I've been looking for this thing for a decent enough price, and this was only $24.99. I'm used to bumping into it being like $50-$60. So now we're going to cut away because I'm going to show the footage of the last record store I visited. Now keep in mind I'm not a professional cameraman and this is my first time doing anything like this, so enjoy, and we'll come back and we'll look at the records I got from that particular trip. Here we are at PDQ Records in Tucson, AZ. Sign's a little faded, not sure how long it's looked like that, but here's a little picture of the way it looked back in its glory for comparison. Now, let's go inside and see what's in store. Now, the first thing I always do is I like to check the new arrivals. There wasn't anything too terribly interesting there. Lots of artists I didn't recognize. That St. Giles album cover caught my eye. Sometimes I don't always know what the heck some of these are, but if the cover looks cool, I'll stop to admire it. Javon Luz album looked interesting, but they were asking a little bit too much for it, so I kind of skipped over it. And now here we have what looks like a Velvet Underground album, which got me excited at first, but then I figured out that that's the name of the album and the name of the band was Archetypes. Looks like it could be pretty cool if I was into that type of stuff, but it doesn't really look like it's part of a genre I listen to. And then there's, of course, the Queen's Greatest Hits album. I also considered getting that, but I've been discovering my love for Queen albums lately, and I'm not usually a fan of Greatest Hits compilations. And for $25, forget it. That Johnny Cash album definitely caught my eye. It's one of his later career albums, and they wanted $50 for it. I'm sure it's an original printing and rare, but I didn't have the dough for it. I've been meaning to get into Joan Baez, but I didn't want to buy that album without knowing whether or not it was any good, so I kind of skipped it. Now this record here is pretty cool. It looks like something someone recorded in a studio themselves. I saw this last time and almost got it, but I didn't recognize the name of the artist, so I had to skip that one as well. As we get to the end of the Just Arrived area, we run into records that have been sitting here for months. I don't know why they'll keep some of them here for a really long time, and others they'll just put them straight where the artist's work usually goes. As we continue our way down, you can see just how massive this place is. This was one of the best record stores in all of Tucson for about, I want to say 30 years. I heard some of the employees say it's been there longer. Sometime in about 2011, they had to shut it down as it struggled to stay in business with dying physical music sales. Here you can see I check out the U2 section. I'm not a huge U2 fan, but I do like a good chunk of their 80s output. Rattle and Hum is definitely not worth it though, but they had a single version of When Love Comes to Town. I was gonna get it, but I just didn't like the song well enough to bother spending $10 on it, so I kind of passed. And here I come across Van Halen. I saw them back in 2004, so I have a bit of a nostalgic spot for them. I have their first self-titled album on vinyl, and my brother listened to them enough, so much that I actually grew to like some of their music. I grabbed Diver Down because it had some of the songs that I recognized from them. But as I was saying, PDQ closed down in 2011 and sold the building. In either 2014 or 2015, they discovered the people who bought it did nothing with it or the stock, so they bought it back and reopened just in time for the vinyl resurgence. And ever since then, it's been a flourishing place for people that are looking for older records that you can't really find anywhere else. And here we have the Frank Zappa collection, and I know a lot of you are going to hate me for not grabbing anything, but I know a lot of Zappa stuff is kind of hit and miss, and I didn't want to grab anything that wasn't all that great, and I've been trying to go in with a little bit of an album guide, but I do mean to pick through that and actually buy a few of those albums. I do have we're only in it for the money, but don't hate on me for skipping over that. I looked over Neil Young. I already have After the Gold Rush. I got that last time and wanted to see if they had Harvest. They didn't, so I had to move on from that as well. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are noticing I'm not checking any of the records I'm getting, and that's because I really trust these guys. I've never bought anything here that didn't play back perfectly on the turntables, so there's that going for it. And here we have the wall full of rarities. Usually, it's really old stuff I haven't heard of, but I can only imagine a fan of oldies music wanting every single record on this wall, and I can't really blame them. A lot of it's probably just doo-wop stuff that I don't really get into all too easily. I also had to check out their section of Parliament. I've been looking for the good albums, but they almost never have them. And just like Frank Zappa, I don't want to go diving into any of these without checking out which ones are good and which ones are bad, because they're kind of hit and miss as well. The Prince album cover made me gasp. I've been looking for Purple Rain at a good price, but alas, it was only a single from Purple Rain, so I had to move on from that. And here in the back we have a bunch of really old 78s. I've been wanting to check those out, but just haven't had the time to dig through them to see if any of them are anything cool that I wanted, but there's that as well. And here we go with classic country. There was only one artist I was looking for, and that was my sweet little Dwight Yoakam. They had him, but the album that they had I already owned, so I had to put it back. Kind of pissed me off though, because I was looking for that one a few months ago, and they never had it, so I ordered it online. And then go figure, when I got the album from Discogs, I keep seeing it all over the place. I saw it at Bookman's last week, and now I'm seeing it here, so oh well. Their jazz section is absolutely massive. I'm not much of a fan of jazz myself, but I imagine if I was, I'd be in heaven. And here we go with Stevie Wonder. Now, I already own Inner Visions and Songs in the Key of Life, but I was looking for Fulfilledness's grand finale. And of course, they almost always have a copy, but I always put it off because I find something cooler and don't want to, I end up putting like all the common ones back and say, oh, I can get this later. I rarely see this one here. But I was like, no, I need to get that album finally. I've heard so many good things about it. And of course, they also had a copy of the Part-Time Lover single. I have a soft spot for that song, so I had to get that one as well. Now, sometimes I'll get a record even if its sleeve is torn, if the record itself is in good condition. I've had that happen a couple of times here, but not terribly often. It happens a lot more at Bookman's, and don't even get me started on that. And I had to check out the hip-hop section because why not? They have tons of used DJ copies. I bumped into a couple of PM Dawn singles a few months back, so I always check to see what's here. Nothing really interesting this time, though. And, of course, nothing terribly interesting in the punk and metal section either. I do dab in those genres here and there, but I'm not so much of a metal or punk head that I'm gonna listen to the really obscure stuff. And then there's the hip-hop LPs, which the Sugar Hill Gang looked interesting, but I passed on that. But looking back in hindsight, I really should have gotten that one. I've been meaning to get into, like, really early hip-hop. And then, of course, I dig through quite a few things that aren't all that interesting or worth talking about, but here we come to the Beach Boys. I always dig for them looking for pet sounds, but it's probably never going to happen, and if it's going to happen, it's not going to be at a good price, that's for sure. I keep being told just get a reissue of Pet Sounds, but I really want an original copy, but those go for so expensive it's not even funny. There was, however, a live I'm thinking of getting, which you'll see that I grabbed, but as I'll say later, I actually ended up putting that one away. And next we have the Beatles, which they have a lot of, but mostly it's just their pop era. The stuff from the bolder, more artistic era usually get picked through quickly. As you can see, the Beatles command a pretty penny at this place. Their more popular albums you can see going as high as $50, which seems really expensive, but when you actually think about it, it makes sense
because they're in high demand right now, and these things have been repressed and re-released and remastered so many goddamn times that, you know, people just really want to listen to it the way that it was quote-unquote supposed to be listened to. So I can understand. And of course, they inflate the prices of things like Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones as well. If the artist is popular, you're gonna see it for pretty darn expensive here. And finally, I had to check out Kylie Minogue, and as you can see, they don't have much for Kylie, most of which I already own, just like little singles here and there. But I keep an eye out for the stuff that sneaks its way in here, because I collect for Kylie Minogue. Nothing too thrilling this time, though. Anyways, let's go ahead and cut back to my living room, shall we?
And now we're back. So I'm not going to go into as much detail here because I talked about some of them. Now some of these I did find after I stopped filming because I wanted to focus a little bit more on finding some things I might want. And of course we have the Stevie Wonder records that I ended up getting, which is Fulfilling This' first finale and Part-Time Lover. And then the other one that you guys saw me grab, which was Van Halen, Diver Down. Now I ended up putting the Beach Boys one away because I just, you know, like I've been looking for Beach Boys for a long time, but I was like looking into the reviews of that live album and it was like, it's okay if you're just looking for a Beach Boys live experience on vinyl. So I didn't end up getting those. These last two I did not film finding. First off is Bob Seger, Night Moves. I made fun of Bob Seger in my Three Doors Down episode of Two Beats Plus.
I recall. Yeah.
And fans were just all like, you know he's a legit good artist, right? And I'm all like, fine.
I tried to tell him that at the time, but
I'll give it a shot. So I got what's considered to be his classic album, and then I was amazed I ran into this, which is Fine Young Cannibals. And they're not asking for very much for it. PDQ was only asking for about $6.
Yeah.
I went for it. And it's a late 80s release, if I remember correctly, 88, 87. I could actually do an Adventures in Vinyland on this one. If I get enough upvotes on this video and people saying, dude, fucking do an Adventures in Vinyland on this, I will do one, because this is a pretty damn catchy album. It's not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a fun enough album that I wouldn't mind doing it. So, that about does it for this. I hope this video wasn't too terribly long for you guys. Check out your local record stores, support local music, support independent music. It's tough making a living in scenes like that these days. And I'll catch you guys next year, and keep an eye out for that new Adventures in Vinyland. Hopefully it'll be coming out sooner than later. See ya.